Today is November 9th already. That's crazy. I guess I wanted to film this quick video to ask you a question. And that question is, how would you deal with being in burnout, like chronic burnout? How do you deal with it mentally? Because I feel like that's been the most challenging aspect, is of course like the obvious aspect of burnout is that you're tired, you can't do much, alright. But the mental aspect of feeling so desperate and like losing hope, that's what I struggle with the most. I see a lot of people online being like, I was in burnout for months, I was in burnout for years. And I'm like, how did you deal with it? How did you keep going? I mean, like, you have no choice, right? Like, how do you cope with the uncertainty of, like, how do you deal with not knowing how long it's gonna last? And I feel like when I look at people who say they've been in burnout for years and stuff, I feel so impatient, and I'm like, look at these people, how much they've endured. And it's my case, I've been in burnout for years, but like, this is the lowest I've been in my burnout, in my chronic burnout. And I'm like, man, how do people deal with it mentally? How do they accept their condition and just work with it? Like, I get it in theory. I get it, like, my body is really tired and it needs a lot of rest. As much rest as possible, as much rest as it needs, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. And, like, I have to accept that there are a lot of things I'm not gonna be able to do for who knows how long. I get it in theory, but it takes a toll mentally, emotionally. Like, I'm not depressed in the sense that my mood is actually really good and I want to do things, but I also get really desperate because of how diminished I feel, and like how, I don't know. Like, I'm not depressed, but like, I wouldn't be, I don't know how to express it. I wouldn't be depressed if I wasn't in burnout. If I wasn't in burnout, my life would be the best it's ever been, because I have all the answers that I need to move forward in life. I know I'm autistic. I've, healed a good bit of trauma, put boundaries in place with the toxic people in my life. Like, I'm in a really good place, and this freaking burnout is holding me back. That's what it feels like. And I can't get over the sheer frustration and anger, like rage sometimes. And I wonder how people deal with it, because I don't hear people talk about it all that much. Maybe a bit on Reddit, but I'm like, how do you like go months or years like this and not get absolutely mad? Like, how? Because I feel like I'm going mad. Like, I've had to cancel so many plans this year. Things I genuinely wanted to do. And now it sounds like I'm whining. Like, it feels like it's never gonna end, you know? And I don't understand how people deal with the uncertainty, because it's killing me. It feels like I'll literally be in burnout my whole life. And I know it's probably not true, but because I've never experienced this before, not to that extent at least, I can't just like, I struggle to reason with myself and tell myself, it's okay. You've been through this before, you can do it again, which is how I deal with things a lot of the time. I'm so irritable right now. Oh my goodness. I'm so pissed. And I feel like a whiny little bitch. Being like, I'm complaining about my life, you know. Oh, my life is horrible. I'm tired of being in burnout. It's like I don't know how to exist outside of it anymore. There are so many things I can't do. I feel so freaking limited. I know that's what, you know, people with chronic illness, things like that, that's what they experience. And, like, they probably experience that much more. Because at least you can recover from burnout, you know, and it gets better after some time. Or at least that's what people say, even though I'm struggling to believe in it at this point. But chronic illness can be around your whole life, you know. Some people have to deal with this their whole life. So I'm like, what am I even complaining about? But I don't know, I'm really struggling mentally right now. Like I said, it's really odd because at the same time I have a really good mood in the sense that I want to do stuff. You know, it's just that I feel so limited on a daily basis that it drives me insane. And it makes me feel desperate because it's been getting progressively worse over the last few months and years. I'm just like, when is it gonna stop getting worse and actually get better? Like, that's not exactly true, because before I moved to France a couple months ago, it had actually got a bit better. And I knew that this move was gonna make my burnout worse. That was one of the reasons why I put it off for so long. I knew it was gonna have a negative impact, but also we didn't really have a choice. So I gritted my teeth through it. Gritted my teeth? I pushed through it. and then I was the first it didn't happen right away. There was a month or so where I was really mentally like not in a good place because I was in a new house and, you know, like I felt dysregulated, but like my energy levels, I could work with them, you know, like, and then it started to drop and it's been dropping ever since. And so I think it's like there was a delayed effect from the move. And so when my mother-in-law was like, let's go to Disneyland in mid-November for my birthday, at that time my burnout was somewhat manageable. I could still do stuff. I could still leave the house, you know? So I was like, yeah, sure. And now, so the trip to Disneyland is next week. And I'm not going to be able to go. It's as simple as that. I've been thinking about it a lot, wondering if I could make it work, and I'm just coming to the realization that, like, if I can barely leave my bed, how can I possibly handle a full day trip that's going to involve being in a park that's very stimulating, and it's going to involve socializing with my in-laws and their 3-year-old granddaughter. Like, how could I possibly handle that if I can't even get out of bed? Like, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I was lying to myself thinking that I could handle it, but I can't. There's a lot of guilt, just like back in April when I went to my in-laws and they had planned so many things for my birthday and I couldn't do any of it. There was a lot of guilt there. And then in July, we were supposed to go to Bali and I couldn't go and we had to cancel. There was a lot of guilt there. And now, again. And for Christmas, you know, we decided that my partner and my in-laws would go stay in a hotel in a nearby town for a couple days to give me some respite. There's a lot of guilt there as well. Like, I feel like a burden, and no one's making me feel like one, but I still feel like one. And I know it comes from a lot of trauma. But you know, like I feel like my mother-in-law really gets it now. But you know, my father-in-law, for example, I don't talk to him as much as my mother-in-law, and he doesn't get it as much. Like, he doesn't know much about autism or anything like that, and he feels bad for me because he feels like I am punishing myself, or like I'm keeping myself from having fun, because he doesn't understand that those are things I need. You know what I mean? Like, for example, for Christmas, this 2-day thing that they booked in another city, and I'm gonna stay at home alone. Like, my father-in-law was like, oh, but like, he felt bad for me that I'm gonna be staying at home, and like, he felt like I was keeping myself from something fun, from, you know. And my mother-in-law was like, no, like, she needs that time alone. Like, so so there's still some misunderstanding of, like, people are like, they don't understand why I would deliberately take time for myself. And yeah, I mean, of course I'm sad that I can't take part in these things, but also I don't have a choice. So I've been feeling pretty negative. Also, I haven't been sleeping great lately, which is common in burnout. Like, literally, like, last night, I dozed off. Like, I was in and out of consciousness between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. And then I actually slept from 6 a.m. to noon. So yeah, my sleep is all over the place. So obviously that doesn't help. And despite having had so little sleep, I didn't feel too bad when I got up at noon. I went downstairs, made myself a cup of tea, went outside on the terrace, spent some time outside, with my cat, and did some stretches on my yoga mat. And then my partner joined me outside. And suddenly I felt the crushing fatigue again. And I was like, here we go, I'm gonna have to go back to bed. And I feel so angry in those moments. I don't know if I'm not so much angry at myself. It's more like, because I know it's not my fault, But also, I am kind of angry at myself. Or I'm angry at the situation, I guess. I'm angry that I feel so stuck for God knows how long. It's maddening, and I just don't understand. Like, I know how I'm supposed to think about the situation, in theory. Making peace with it, whatever. But I get so restless. Like, mentally restless. And it gets to a point where, at times, I'm so easily overstimulated. Like, it's literally like yesterday I made a short where I talked about how I got overstimulated because of a bath bomb. And it took me hours to regulate again. Like, what? I'm so easily overstimulated these days that I end up having to, like, there are so few things I can actually do that I end up being understimulated mentally. And I get so bored because, like, obviously I can't leave the house much. I'll go maybe I'll go for a short walk once or twice a week. That's how much I can. And still, like, I probably shouldn't do that because then it tends to drain my energy pretty fast. So I don't really leave the house. Watching movies sometimes is too much. So most activities that are safe for me at this point are like reading in bed, listening to ASMR, putting on a relaxing ambiance on the TV, maybe having a little chat with my partner, taking a bath without a bath bomb. That's it. And it gets old. It's fine for a few days, but after a few weeks, it gets real old. Real fast. And then I feel like I'm going mad. And then my brain is so understimulated, but also I get so overstimulated sensory-wise that I just don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, I want my brain to feel stimulated, but my senses can't handle much. So I'm like stuck in this limbo of feeling incredibly bored and not being able to remedy it. It's wonderful. I love my life right now. And I feel so ungrateful for saying that. It's just great. So So yeah, I've been spending most of my time in bed. Also, what's been annoying as well is like kind of depressing is that I had been able to maintain my YouTube channel, keep it running so far throughout this burnout. And now even that, and that was kind of like an indication to me that things were still okay. And now I don't even have the energy to make videos anymore. Not how I normally make them, at least, where I just film a video about a topic and then edit it at my computer, at my desk downstairs, and just, do the whole thing. I haven't had the energy to do that. I haven't even had the energy to make shorts. Like, I have ideas for videos that I want to make. Like, I've had this idea for weeks of a series of shorts that I want to make, showing all my favorite stims, for example, and like my worst sensory icks and stuff like that. But I haven't had the energy. So that was the one thing that I was still able to do that gave me some kind of, a sense of accomplishment. And I can't even do that anymore. So that sucks. So I'm trying this out. I'm trying to make like adapt the videos that I make to my current state. So just filming wherever I am, like in my bed right now, and then doing some very basic editing from my phone. The most basic videos possible. Just quick little updates here and there. I actually made a whole video about my experience with the autism friendly therapist that I went to see 2-3 weeks ago. I've lost count now. I made a whole video about that, an hour long. It was a vlog over several days. I've edited some of it. I don't know if it will ever come out, because at this point I'm like, it's been so long that I don't even know if it's relevant anymore. So anyways, but I was talking all about the crappy experience I had with that therapist, but at this point I'm like, do I even want to talk about it? Like, she basically pretended to be neuroaffirming or whatever, but she knew basically nothing about autism. I mean, she knew about autism from a clinical lens, through a clinical lens. It was very pathologized. I mean, what did I expect? We're in France. Like, she made me feel like shit. She made me feel like there was something, like I was dysfunctional. She implied that now that I was diagnosed, I was going to be able to hide my stims more so that I don't feel uncomfortable when people look at me. So she was basically encouraging me to mask, which really shocked me. And just overall, she just didn't know shit about autism. And I felt like crap when I left. I didn't get anything positive out of that experience. So if that other video ends up not coming out, this will be all I'm gonna say about that. There isn't much to say anyway. I'm never gonna go back to her. It took me so much energy to plan that appointment, prepare mentally for it for weeks, go there, do the appointment, recover afterwards. It was not worth it. Thankfully, it's covered by insurance, but in order for me to get a refund, I need to send a piece of paper by post, which means leaving the house. Haven't had the energy. So here we are. So yeah, I actually made the decision to not go to Disneyland next week. It took me a surprisingly long time to come to that decision, given how debilitating my current state is. But I guess I was trying to convince myself that I might make it, you know? But I have to be realistic. It's not gonna happen. I mean, I could do it, but I would risk making my burnout even worse. And what's the point of going if I end up spending the whole weekend in the hotel room? Like, I might as well stay at home, you know? So, but that also means that for about 4 days, my partner will be gone. So I'll have to take care of myself, and I've been relying on him a lot for daily tasks. Like, if I lived on my own right now, I would be dead already. I don't know. I would have had to ask for some type of human help or whatever, like, because at this point I don't really cook anymore. He handles the meals. He makes the drinks. Like, he keeps the house running as best as he can, you know. He also found out that he got fired about 1 or 2 weeks ago. So that was fun. Especially since he's the sole breadwinner. But life sometimes has a way of making things happen at the right time, in the sense that I was worried that because he had to handle a full-time job on top of caring for, like, taking care of me, being my caretaker, if you will, I was worried that that was going to be too much for him, and I didn't want him to end up in a burnout as well. And then he got fired. And of course, it's never good news, but at least he has more time now, so he can do all the things that I can't do, and also take some time to rest and not get burnt out. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about it because he works in an industry where there's lots of jobs, and he has an amazing career. He's got an amazing CV, and he's never had problems finding jobs in the past. So I'm not too worried about that. Obviously, it's a bummer for him because he really liked his job and the company he worked for. And it's never fun having to go look for a new job, and go through the interview process, blah, blah, blah. But hopefully he'll have a few weeks to a few months of transition where he isn't gonna be working much, so it's gonna allow him to have some time for himself, some time for himself. Why does that sound wrong? I don't know. So yeah, I'm basically dealing with that thing that I talked about in another video where I was talking about how when I'm going through something negative, like I'm struggling with something, like an emotion or just a struggle, it's like my brain forgets that it's like I become convinced that that's the only thing I'm ever gonna experience, and it's never gonna end. It's gonna be forever, you know. Even though intellectually I know it doesn't make any sense. Like everything ends at one point. The therapist that I spoke to recently said that it was anxiety. I don't know, maybe it's anxiety, but to me it feels like it's like fundamentally like how my brain works. I'm unable to convince myself that it's gonna be temporary, that it's gonna be okay. And it's like that with everything. The only way that I can minimize that mental discomfort is when I know that I've been through it once before and I know how it ends, I know what to do about it, then I'm able to rationalize in my head and be like, I've been through this before, I can handle it. But when I'm experiencing it for the first time, I can't rationalize. I can't control it. It's really annoying because it is making my life so much worse right now. So yeah, I wish I could rationalize and convince myself that it's gonna be okay. Like it's just a matter of time until I feel I get back to normal. You know, it's just like the first time that I had a major depression, you know, I reached a point where I felt like I touched rock bottom, and then I was like, I can only go up from here. And then I was okay because I felt like the worst had passed. And then when that happened again, I was like, it's okay, I've been through it before, I've recovered before, so I'll be fine. But this type of burnout, this intensity of burnout, I've never experienced before. So until it's behind me for good, I'm not going to be able to rationalize and be like, it's okay, it's going to pass. And I actually get a lot of comfort from reading about other people's experiences on Reddit, more than I do on YouTube, because I feel like a lot of the time YouTube videos that talk about, you know, autistic burnout, things like that, it's a lot about the technical aspects, the theoretical aspects. Here are all the symptoms of burnout. But people don't necessarily talk about their own lived experience of what it's like to be going through burnout, which is what I try to do, you know? And on Reddit, there are just so many people talking about their experience. And yesterday I read a very relatable description of someone who was saying that when they were in the depths of burnout, they felt like they wanted it to end, but not in the sense that they wanted to, but they didn't actually want to die, you know? And that's kind of what I've been experiencing. Is like, I want it to end, but I don't want my life to end, you know what I mean? I'm trying my best to stay positive. I've just been really struggling lately. I get really frustrated and angry and irritated. I don't know what people do so they don't get bored, you know? Like, how do you fill your days when the only thing you can do is rest? Like, there's sleep and then there's rest, you know? What do you do when you're not sleeping and you don't have the energy to do much? Like, you can't spend all day, every day, reading and watching movies. Like, it gets really boring after one point. Like, even though, don't get me wrong, I love watching my comfort movies. I love reading Game of Thrones. That's what I'm reading right now. I love it, but I want to do other things, you know? Like, I get restless, mentally restless, you know? And I talked about how I struggle since being in burnout, since becoming an adult. I've struggled with writing fantasy stories, which was one of my main special interests as a kid. And how I still want to do it, but I struggle to do it. So I've been trying to find different ways to approach it. I feel like through wanting to make it my job at some point and getting a master's degree in creative writing and doing it professionally as a freelancer for a bit, writing stories for other people, editing other people's stories, I feel like I lost sight of the reason why I did it in the first place, which was for pure escapism. When I started to write stories as a six-year-old, all I wanted was escapism. I wanted to find the same feeling that I was getting from watching fantasy movies and reading fantasy books and playing fantasy games, you know? Instead, in a world of my own. And that was my only motivation for writing. And I didn't care what the story looked like. I didn't care whether other people were going to read it. I didn't care if it was publishable, you know. And I lost sight of that, because when we grow older, suddenly everything has to become a job. Everything has to make money. And it's like it became narrower and narrower until I felt like my creativity was being completely stifled by this perfectionism and writing advice, the writing techniques, you're supposed to do this and not that, and it was like, instead of being like having an entire world to explore in my mind, it became like having to follow a storytelling formula from point A to point B, and I don't know, it just took away the creativity for me, the fun of it, because there were so many rules. And I'm tired of rules, honestly. Like, I don't want to follow the rules anymore when it comes to writing stories. I want to reconnect with that innocent, free child self that I was years ago when I started to write stories 20 years ago, you know? And so for that, I think I need to step out of that formula that is stuck in my head of like, this is how you write a story. This is how you write a book, and it has to follow these rules, and you have to do this like that. I don't care about that anymore. I don't have to write a story from start to finish. There are no rules. If I'm doing this for myself, not for anybody else, for the fun of it, for escapism, which is why I did it in the first place, then I shouldn't feel compelled to follow the rules and follow that formula. And I could just write, like build a character, do some world building, invent a creature, but like write, and it doesn't even have to be in writing. I can experiment with images, sounds. Like there are so many ways to tell stories that are not necessarily linear, or like, you know what I mean? So this is what I want to do, because I'm like, maybe I'll feel less mentally restless if I have a new creative outlet that provides that much needed escapism and mental stimulation, but without it being sensorily overstimulating. Does that make any sense? I don't know. Maybe I won't have enough mental or cognitive energy to do that, but I'll give it a go at least. Also, like, the laptop that I have, I've had it for 8 years. It's a MacBook Pro that I've had for 8 years. So now it's really old and really slow, and a lot of the keys on the keyboard are gone, so I have to use a separate keyboard, and I have to prop my laptop on something to make it taller, and then it has to be plugged in because otherwise the battery doesn't hold. Like, it's a whole thing that like turned it from a laptop to a desktop almost. Like, I use it like a desktop, not a laptop. So I can't easily just take it with me in bed and use it to edit my videos or write. Like, I would have to go to my desk downstairs, and it doesn't really work for me right now. So, but I'm getting a new I'm gonna get a new laptop. I'm gonna have it in about 10 days. So I'm really excited for that, because the other one just, it was becoming really difficult to work on it. So getting a new laptop, which is gonna be great. It's gonna make my life so much easier, because like, it's my work tool, because I make videos, I write stories, I do, like, this is what I do. And for that, I need a functioning laptop. So I'm really excited about that. I'm gonna try to be patient. Now that I've made the decision not to go to Disneyland, I've started to cancel things. Thankfully, we're able to get refunds for most things. And then for the Disney Pass, we can't get a refund, but we can move it to a different date maybe. So maybe go next year instead, So, yeah, deciding not to go to Disney next week definitely took some weight off my shoulders. Now it's gonna be, I'm gonna have to tell my in-laws that I'm not going, which it takes energy in and of itself. I mean, maybe my partner would do it for me, but I wanted to do it myself. But we'll see if I have the energy. I don't look forward to telling them because they're gonna be sad and disappointed, obviously. I'm probably gonna have to explain myself and stuff like that. It's just, I'm already tired just thinking about it. But anyways, I'm probably gonna watch a movie now because I should probably nap, but I don't really do naps. Like, I can't really nap during the day. And when I do, it's very rare, but when I do, I tend to feel worse afterwards than I did before, so like it's a whole thing, but yeah. Let's survive another day. Bye.